Hello and welcome to the very first episode of Freshly Squeezed. Freshly Squeezed is a brand new astrology podcast released every first of the month for your spiritual wellness. I'm Kelsey, your host and cosmic coach. My intention is that you utilize this podcast as your personal spiritual appointment to help you get organized and set yourself up for success at the beginning of each month. In this episode, we will be going over the astrology of January 2025 and closing with a collective tarot reading to reflect on as the month unfolds. Thank you for being here. I'm so excited to share with you. This is one of the practical ways that I use astrology in my personal life, and obviously I want to teach what I know and what I find useful, so hopefully someone else can find it useful as well. And if you do find this podcast useful, please let me know by liking or rating the show with 5 stars. I would be so appreciative of your feedback. Okay, so at the beginning of each new month, I look at my calendar and highlight the key transits of the month ahead, making note of what days will have tougher transits so that I can have a heads up for the upcoming cosmic climate. I also mark my personal menstrual cycle so that I can be extra aware of when my cycle is overlapping with tougher transits, so that I can be well prepared and plan ahead accordingly to make sure I can accomplish what I need to get done in my favor. The idea is that you're working with the universe and not against it, using astrology as a tool to stay aware of the cosmic cycles at play. Consider this podcast a way to help you surf the cosmic waves instead of letting the ocean drown you. Because in my experience on Earth, it's either learn to swim or get dragged under by the cosmic current. So let me help you help yourself, and let's get into the astrology. This January is all about emotional endurance. Mars is in retrograde and will remain in retrograde until February 23rd of this year, which means the first 2 months of 2025 are off to a slow start. We're not going anywhere fast. We're having to retrace and revisit and rework the plan so that we can launch off with a fresh new start come the spring. So the beginning vibe of the year is slow and steady wins the race. Think of it as like a pot of water that's boiling that we want to keep our eye on so that it doesn't boil over. Come mid-month, on January 13th, we're going to have a full moon in Cancer. Cancer is an emotional sign, and full moons bring the emotions out of us. So this is going to be a big emotional moon. And to add a little spiciness, the planet Mars will also be in the sign of Cancer, sitting right next to the full moon. So visually, this is really beautiful because on January 13th through the 15th, you'll be able to see at sunset when the sun is going down in the west, the full moon and Mars will be rising in the east together, right next to each other. And there will also be an occultation of Mars when the full moon passes over Mars for about a full hour for most parts of the United States, Eastern Canada, and Mexico. If you're in those areas, definitely check it out with a good pair of binoculars or a small telescope. During that time, the full moon is going to be illuminating our pent-up frustrations and repressed anger. So the vibe is cranky. It's crabby, it's emotional, there will be tears, there will be anger, so get ahead of that in any way that you can. Don't plan lightly around the full moon, and take extra caution in tending to your own emotions, and being conscious and compassionate for others, because everyone is going to collectively be impacted by this energy. And it's just not fun. It's frustrating and angry and exhaustion. It's really the toughest planetary retrograde that we can endure. The good news is Venus moves into Pisces on January 2nd, which will lighten the mood and add a rose-colored glasses lens to everything. So if you're feeling a little pent up with frustration, maybe lean into that delusional Pisces yumminess and paint yourself a watercolor painting to escape the emotional frustration. Definitely want to be utilizing creative outlets or physical outlets because Mars retrograde just really isn't fun. And I want to keep it real with you because astrology is supposed to be self-empowering, and knowing that we're going through a tougher transit and being aware of that in itself can be empowering. So during the first week of January, Mars retrograde in Leo will oppose Pluto in Aquarius. You may notice themes of manipulation or control, some sort of conflict or familiar situation of conflict that you might have had in early November could be coming up. Retrogrades always revisit and retrace things, and Mars is currently retracing some type of anger in our lives that we were experiencing in the fall. On January 11th, the lunar nodes will retrograde into the sign of Pisces and Virgo, highlighting the Pisces-Virgo axis for the next year and a half. The positioning of the lunar nodes dictates where we have eclipses, and eclipses deal with fate and karma and create major change in our lives. So you'll definitely want to check out my juicy newsletter on January 11th on my Substack for Zodiac Juice Astrology. I'll be doing a deep dive into what this transit will have in store for you, especially if you have one of your natal lunar nodes in a sign, in one of the signs of Virgo or Pisces. This will be a huge chapter for you. So look out for that coming January 11th, and that will usher us into a brand new eclipse cycle that will kickstart come March. On January 18th, Venus will join Saturn in the sign of Pisces, and this will give us kind of a reality check when it comes to love, finances, our values. Expect a serious, somber tone come January 18th, and then the 21st and the 22nd, the Sun will conjoin Pluto, and this will bring an obsessive, transformative, intense focus. So maybe that reality check will then prompt you to get into some obsessive mode about something new you're trying to build for yourself come January 21st, around that time. So we'll end the month January 29th with a new moon in Aquarius, where we can reset and have some sort of fresh intellectual new beginning. All right, it's time to close this episode with a collective tarot reading. I'm going to invite you to take 3 deep cleansing breaths with me so that we can unite our energy in time and space. Wherever you are in time and space, this reading is for you. And so let's go ahead and clear our energy out. Take a deep breath in with me. Ready? Breathe in. Breathe out. Breathe in. Breathe out. Really empty out on the exhale. Last breath. Breathe in. And let it all go. Beautiful. My intention for this reading is to provide a message for us to return to throughout the month of January 2025. You can use it as a mantra or something to anchor your spirit throughout the month and return to whenever you need to help center yourself. I also recommend, if you have your own tarot deck, to shuffle the cards and pull a card in addition to the card we pull together. So we can each pull one, and that way you can add another layer of clarity and interpretation to deepen the nuance and connection to your spirit. Messages and signs are always available to us if we are willing to ask and be open. So that's part of why we took those deep breaths, because we want to really reset and clear our energy to be as open and receptive as possible. Okay. I've got my cards. Hopefully you have yours. 3 is my lucky number, so I'm going to give this deck 3 good shuffles. Hopefully you can pick up the ASMR on this. One more for good luck. Okay. Let's pull a card. What is the medicine that we need for the month of January 2025? Okay. So I've pulled the 4 of Cups in reverse. The way that I interpret reversed cards is an internal message, something that we need to work on internally, on ourselves. It's not necessarily something that we're projecting outward at this time. So getting a reversed card during a retrograde makes a lot of sense right off the bat. I also like to pay attention to the colors and the background of the card. The background of this particular card is blue, which to me is telling of having internal peace, tranquility, space, and clarity to think. The imagery of the 4 of Cups is really funny because it's a gentleman sitting down next to a tree with his arms crossed, and he's looking pretty pouty, pretty Mars and Cancer pouty, if I do say so myself. And he's got 3 cups sitting in front of him, and he's pouting and not even paying attention to this 4th beautiful cup that is appearing from a cloud, just handing in front of him, right in front of his face. And then the message of the card is saying, you have everything you need around you. You have all the love and compassion and empathy and support if you're just willing to look up and see it. Get out of your own misery and your own emotional dread dwelling that you're doing, and look for the inspiration and the signs around you, because they're there. They're there ready for you if you're willing to shift your perspective out of misery and help yourself. So that's very fitting for this emotionally kind of crybaby energy that we're in for this month. It's like, life isn't that bad. Just look up. You've got love around you. The number 4 represents foundations in the tarot. And the Suit of Cups is all about love, communication. It correlates with water energy, or the element of water. So yeah, I'm looking at this as very Mars retrograde type energy, reiterating that internal depression or suppression of love and emotion that we're feeling. We're feeling like our foundation might not be very strong, and we're going to have to dig deep and rework the emotional foundation within us. That's really a lot of what this full moon is exposing or asking of us, is saying, hey, where are the cracks in this emotional foundation? Where can we strengthen and nurture our emotions and our drive and our emotional drive? So yeah, in the tarot, there's the minor arcana and the major arcana, and this is a minor card. So, we're, as this podcast progresses, I'm sure we will get major cards that say, hey, this is a big month. And this minor card is reiterating kind of exactly what the astrology is saying, that this month isn't going anywhere fast. It's not like a big exclamation point for the year 2025. It's kind of stuck and stagnant and internally dwelling. So spend time sitting in your emotions, but don't sit in them in a negative way. Spend time sitting in them and opening yourself up to more love and more possibilities. Lean into that Venus and Pisces energy that's really fluid and transcendent and bringing in the oneness and compassion that we all share and can tap in together. It's kind of asking you to look for the magic in your connections this month to get you out of this internal slump. Or maybe look at the magic within you to support a new foundation for your emotions. So hopefully that resonates with you. Definitely check back in as the month progresses. If you like, I always enjoy re-listening to a reading, reflecting back on it, journaling on it. Get as much from it as you can. This is your spiritual appointment. And you should just pat yourself on the back for even taking this time out for yourself to begin with, to acknowledge the emotional and spiritual experience that you are having in this earthly plane. All right, so thank you for listening to the very first episode of Freshly Squeezed. I hope you found it comforting and insightful. Check back for a new Freshly Squeezed episode released every first of the month. Have a happy new year. I hope wherever you are, you're having a magical time.